Okay, let's dive into the sources you shared with us today. We've got quite a bit of material here, all centered around semaglutide.
Hmm.
The medication many people know for, well, for weight management.
Right. That's usually where the conversation starts and honestly often ends. You hear about the biology.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
GLP-1 receptors,
Mm.
regulating appetite, slowing down digestion, all that biological stuff.
And look, that's all real. It's important context for understanding why these sources we're looking at are so intriguing.
It is, because while the sources definitely acknowledge the biology,
Hmm.
their mission, and, our mission for this deep dive is to explore something else, a perspective that goes, well, way deeper.
Yeah, thanks mainly to the insights from Dan Hollis in these articles.
They suggest the real impact for many isn't just the physical changes. It's about the mental and emotional space that opens up.
A space that apparently reveals something really fundamental about our internal struggles, our relationship with ourselves.
Right. It kind of challenges the whole idea that this is simply about willpower or discipline
No.
or counting calories.
These sources argue it's actually about facing something else entirely, something hidden.
So it's a pretty surprising angle. Ready to unpack it.
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
All right. So the absolute core idea, the starting point from Dan Hollis in these sources, it's that semaglutide provides silence.
Silence. Yeah, it's such a striking word choice there.
It really is.
And the sources are specific. The silence isn't just, quiet in general. It's the moment where, and this is a direct quote, food stops talking.
Food stops talking.
Eh,
Wow. Just take a second to think about that.
yeah.
For so many people, there's this constant internal chatter, right, about food, obsession, guilt, rules, cravings, the shame. It's
Like
exhausting.
a choppy internal noise loop.
Exactly. And these sources say this medication can specifically quiet that noise.
And the result of that quiet, according to Hollis, it allows for truth.
Truth.
It can reveal what one source calls the first honest moment someone might have had in years.
Because that specific distracting food voice is finally turned down.
Precisely. The noise was masking something.
That's a really powerful idea. So the silence isn't just emptiness, it's revealing. What does it reveal, according to the sources?
Well, this is where it gets, I think, really interesting and starts pushing against the usual narrative.
Okay.
The sources argue that focusing only on food or calories or willpower, it actually misses the point entirely.
So that constant focus on food, it's not the core issue, it's a distraction.
Exactly, a distraction from something else. The silence doesn't just quiet the food noise, it reveals what that noise was covering up.
Is that something else? What's underneath?
According to these sources, it's often not that the person is fundamentally broken.
Right.
It's described more like emotional amnesia or just confusion.
Confusion, not brokenness. That is a huge reframe.
It really is. One of the articles even uses this as a headline, and it just sticks with you. What if you weren't broken, just confused?
Wow.
It completely shifts the lens, doesn't it? Away from blaming some inherent flaw towards understanding a state of, well, not understanding the real drivers of behavior.
Okay, so we have silence, which reveals truth. And that truth is often confusion, not some fundamental brokenness. That sounds like progress, right? A good thing.
You'd think so. You'd think, okay, silence, truth, great, now what? But the sources point out a really significant challenge right here.
Even with the silence.
Especially with the silence, they're very clear. Many people really struggle with this newfound quiet.
Why? Why would quiet be a problem? Isn't that the goal?
Well, Hollis suggests through these sources that it's because, and I quote, no one taught them what to do with the quiet.
Ah, so they've lived with the noise for so long, maybe their whole lives.
Exactly. They don't have the skills or the framework or the tolerance, maybe, for the silence.
It's like being thrown into an empty room after years in a deafeningly loud one. The emptiness itself feels wrong, scary.
Disorienting, definitely. The sources describe it like losing a favorite lie.
A favorite lie, even if it was harmful.
Yeah, because it was familiar, it was predictable in its own chaotic way. And when that familiarity disappears, the sources say the instinct is often to reach back towards what is familiar.
Which, in this context, would look like the old patterns, slipping back.
Precisely. The sources mention reaching for things like cheese puffs, cheat days, chaos.
Chaos. Interesting.
Yeah, suggesting it's not always about physical hunger driving a relapse. It might be the brain just asking for the old familiar rhythm, the distraction it knows how to handle.
Okay, so the silence itself and the confusion it reveals, that's the real challenge point for many people.
Yeah.
So what's the path forward? According to Hollis in these sources, what do you do with that quiet space?
He talks about building in that space, actively constructing something new now that there's room.
Building what?
He uses several words: building scaffolding, framework, identity, ritual, and even language.
It sounds like creating a whole new internal operating system almost.
That's a good way to think about it. The sources use this great phrase, building inner architecture.
Inner architecture, I like that.
It captures it well, I think. It's not just about the numbers on the scale. It's about, as they put it, rewriting the story people were too full to finish.
Too full of the noise.
Too full of the noise, the distraction, the confusion, maybe, to even understand their own story, let alone write a new ending.
Building architecture, rewriting a story. I mean, this sounds like deep work.
Mm-hmm.
And probably not a straight line, right? There must be setbacks, stumbles.
Absolutely. And that's where the second source you shared really connects, providing this deeper look into how Dan Hollis approaches the whole idea of failure on this kind of journey.
Which is huge, because the standard view of failure, especially around weight or health goals, is just loaded with shame and blame.
Totally. But Hollis reframes it completely. He argues, through these sources, that failure isn't a sign you're weak or broken, it's a message, a moment of feedback.
Okay, feedback. Information, not condemnation.
Exactly. It's data.
What kind of message? What information is it giving you?
He suggests sometimes failure is actually the most honest conversation you'll ever have with yourself.
Honest about what?
Honest about something not working in your new setup, in the architecture you're trying to build. Maybe a support beam is weak, or you didn't account for a certain stressor.
So it's not necessarily that you failed or the medication failed, but maybe you failed to prepare for what comes after it, failed to build that new framework strongly enough yet.
Precisely. Breakdowns often signal that the support system, the inner architecture, needs reinforcement or adjustment. It's not a reflection of your fundamental worth.
That really shifts failure from something to hide or be ashamed of into something valuable, almost necessary.
Yes. The sources really emphasize this. Setbacks are sacred if you're willing to look at them with curiosity instead of judgment.
Curiosity, not judgment. That's the key difference.
Getting curious about why the stumble happened, what it's trying to teach you, instead of just beating yourself up.
And that quote you pulled earlier is so powerful here. The shame isn't in failing. The shame is in pretending you were supposed to be perfect.
Right. It just takes all that pressure off. Perfection isn't the goal. Learning is.
So how do you build on that? What do the sources say about moving forward after a stumble?
They talk about building grace. And grace isn't about pretending the stumble didn't happen. It's about choosing a better tool instead of reaching for blame in the aftermath.
Okay, so the stumble happens. That's almost inevitable. The crucial part is the response.
Exactly. What do you do next? Do you fall back into shame, or do you get curious? Do you look for a better tool?
Which means asking yourself that question from the sources. What story am I telling myself about this failure? Am I running the old I'm broken tape, or am I writing a new one about learning and feedback?
It all comes down to learning how to, as the sources put it, fail forward, using the difficulty, the feedback, as fuel for the next step, not as a reason to stop.
Okay, let's zoom out for just a second here. Because while these sources are grounded in the context of semaglutide and weight, wow, these core ideas feel incredibly relevant much more broadly.
Oh, absolutely. Facing confusion instead of just labeling yourself broken, navigating that internal quiet when a long-standing distraction fades.
Yeah, and learning to consciously build new internal structures, that inner architecture idea, and especially reframing failure from shame into useful feedback.
These aren't just about weight loss journeys. You could apply this thinking to so many things.
Like changing any deeply ingrained habit, maybe. Starting a big creative project. Dealing with anxiety, procrastination, even career shifts.
Any area where you feel stuck or where you face setbacks, yeah. The principles about handling that internal space, responding to difficulty with curiosity, they seem pretty universal.
It offers a more compassionate and maybe more effective way to look at struggle and change in general.
Definitely feels that way.
So this deep dive, really guided by these sources and Dan Hollis's insights, has really shifted the lens on semaglutide, something often discussed just in terms of, biology and physical effects. According to these sources, A huge part of its potential impact actually lies in that mental and emotional space it can create.
Right. It's presented as this opportunity for potentially deep personal change, not just by quieting the specific noise around food.
But by allowing you the space, maybe for the first time, to actually confront the underlying confusion, to start building that inner architecture, and to radically redefine what failure even means along the way.
It's a profound shift in perspective.
It really is,
Yeah.
and it leaves us with that final provocative thought drawn straight from the sources for you, the listener, to consider.
If, as these sources suggest, it was never about the food, and if that silence primarily reveals confusion, what truths might silence reveal in your life?